think, since we are recording it, that we should get started. So I think we'll start with, if Jake, you can introduce yourself to everyone and who you are, what you do.
Yeah, we'll absolutely. There. So, hey guys, Jake Halusic, thanks for joining today. I'm the CEO and founder of Trofeo. Trofeo is heavily focused on infrastructure and security. We are experts in Microsoft Azure. Microsoft Azure is Microsoft's cloud. And so we do everything from cloud strategy and design for clients to simple lift and shift migrations of moving applications up to the cloud, to very complex migrations of moving hundreds and hundreds of servers up to the cloud, and wrapping all the right security, connectivity around that cloud environment so that it acts as a platform for growth for our customers. In addition to that, we focus heavily on M365. So everything from migrations on M365 to optimization of the licensing to long-term support around it. And finally, we do a lot of work with the Microsoft security solutions. Where we're a little different than other firms is not only do we have in-house expertise around Purview for data loss and data governance, Sentinel, Defender, all the native Azure security tools, but we take it a step further and we have in-house expertise around governance, risk, and compliance. So we'll come in, document all the policies and procedures. We'll help clients with data classification. And then we will also deliver the SOC and SIM pieces around that as well, so that we can do the monitoring and response. And we have strategic partnerships that help us deliver those solutions. And so that is really Trofeo in a nutshell. We really stay in our lanes when it comes to the skill sets and offerings we have. If it's outside of that, we refer them out to partners such as congruentX.
All right,
awesome.
Chuck. Well, tell us about congruentX.
I will. Thank you. I'm Chuck Ingram. I'm blessed to serve as the CEO of congruentX. I've been a CRM guy for like 25 years, and it's so cool that it's even more relevant today than it was when I started. And a lot of the things that Jake has talked about, we're going to connect the dots because, you're going to have one person over here talking about accelerating revenue and things like that, and one talking about data and security. And one of our goals is we want this audience to leave going, wow, those two things are connected, and they're absolutely important for PE growth, PE and portfolio growth right now. And we all know there's a big focus in the PE space on value creation, and they're buying a lot of CRM. Unfortunately, what we're going to talk about how we fix this is about half the time it's not helping. We're implementing tech for tech's sake. And so we help at congruentX, we help tech and revenue leaders sort of finally get CRM right so they can walk out their go-to-market strategy. And in the PE instance, it's walk out their value creation strategy. And we're doing a lot, as Jake said, sort of in the Microsoft stack. Ours, it's more on the Dynamics CE CRM part, and a whole lot with Copilot right now. We built our own Copilot that is a playbook-based conversation intelligence solution, and it's really fun. We're excited about what it's doing for customers, and all that helps sort of PE operating partners walk out their value creation playbooks with their portcos, and excited about this conversation.
Well, thank you. And so, Jake, over the past few years, how have you seen private equity change, and what are you seeing out there that is affecting their spending?
Yeah, private equity over the last couple of years has really been a roller coaster, and I'll just say M&A in general. We went through a period a few years back where we had really high valuations of companies. We had a lot of supply and demand, and we basically had free money with interest rates being low. So the market was just about as hot as it's ever been. We've certainly seen that cool off over the past couple of years. There's been a few events that have played into it. You certainly had interest rates rise. You had the SVB bank crash and a couple other crashes that sparked some fear into the market. And so we saw a pullback, specifically, I would say in the upper mid market to enterprise range, not as many deals getting done. The lower middle market and true mid market, is still active. We aren't seeing nearly as many deals get done. We're seeing a lot more scrutiny go into due diligence. We are still seeing some of the really attractive companies get really good multiples, but there's certainly been a pullback, and we expect that to continue through the rest of 2024. I think once we get past the elections in November, and we just heard that it's time for an interest rate reduction with the Fed coming out last week. So, I think once that actually happens, we will see money go back into the market. The money is out there. So the PE firms either need to invest it in companies or give it back to investors, and they don't want to do that. So there's going to be a push for spend coming here. And we expect 2025 to be a really good year for deals getting done. And in coordination with that, spend going into those portfolio companies to maximize their value as the PE firms invest into them.
What are you seeing, Chuck?
That makes total sense. Like Jake said, the merely free money and all those kind of things, there's cause and effect for all those things, and not having free money causes some other things. I read where there was about 4,000 private equity firms just a few years ago. Now there's 6,000, and the last number I saw in terms of capital, and I don't know how much is deployed and how much is sitting, was like $9 trillion. That's a lot of money out there. And also sort of sometimes good things come out of pain. So right now what we're seeing is deal flow, as Jake said, is a little slower. And that also means the hold times are longer in the private equity space. So what we're seeing is, not always, there's different deal theses, but in a lot of cases, whatever we expected the whole time to be, it's a little longer. So it's shifted some of the focus from financial engineering more to value creation. And we're seeing a lot of the operating partners kind of digging into their value creation playbooks to try to grow their portcos. And that opens a lot of opportunities for tech to help in these cases.
So that kind of goes to the next question, Chuck. What trends are you seeing from a technology perspective? And are private equity firms and their portfolio companies utilizing technology?
Yeah, so like we said, these operating partners have to lean into their value creation playbooks, maybe more than they were before. And part of that playbook is numbers, but part of it is, I think we've all seen it, is private equity makes an investment and they bring in some folks to help, like a CRO. And I don't know if it's a dirty little secret, but like CROs have about 18 months to put their plan in place and to get the results that they promised the board. And interestingly, on the other side of that, Salesforce tells us that in CRM, on the tech side, that about 91% of the time, the data that's in your CRM is wrong. And it decays 70% every single year. So that's not to be gloom and doom. That's to say, hey, our friend, the CRO, can't scale the business if the data's bad. Because, Jake has a lot of experience in sales in his background, and you can't call the reps and be on every single call. We have to figure out how to scale. And that's where the data is so important, and security of the data is so important. So you can see, I went on a mission trip one time, and our car broke down in the Serengeti. And in the Serengeti, there's a whole lot of eyes looking at you from the edge of the plane. And it was kind of scary, but an analogy I heard somebody say, and it made me think of it when I was there, is you don't really care about every set of eyes. You sort of care about that red set of eyes that's hooked to a tiger or some kind of a scary thing. So we need data and we need insights from that data. And I want to share a quick example of a portco here in Atlanta. Um, they obviously had a compelling reason to grow. They got an injection of a funding event happened, and then COVID happened. So they had this pent up growth they wanted to take advantage of, and unfortunately they tried two different CRMs. They try and they were going to try something else or just throw it away. And we kind of came in and at congruentX and helped them think of this a little bit different than maybe the other partners that thought of it. The thinking was, well, I want to give the customer a 360-degree view. What did that mean? More fields on a form. Well, these folks were out in the field. So we took the same solution that they already had, which happened to be the second one was Dynamics, and we built kind of an AI fueled solution that was geo aware. So it popped up and told you where you were, and it gave only salient information, contextual information about the person, what they're trying to do. And what we found is they went from zero adoption to using it 60 times a day. So if you put yourself in that CRO's seat, could you coach the team better with that extra information? Can you present things to people in context and it can help them do better? And I think the answer is yes.
So what are your thoughts, Jake? Are you seeing that in security? Like dive in a little bit of what you're seeing, how they're utilizing technology.
Yeah, we're seeing it from the same perspective, just a different lens based on what we offer. But I think a lot of it comes down to the data. That's, a common theme, right? It's all in the data. We see a couple different areas that private equity firms have been really focused on. One is cloud. And with cloud, there's a couple of different areas. It is making sure that systems are accessible, scalable, and secure. There's been a few events over the past several years that have triggered this. You certainly had COVID. The companies who were in the cloud and their employees could access their systems, were really able to ride out the storm, and some of them even able to perform better. With a remote workforce. You had the deep freeze in Texas that happened right after that. A lot of the companies there were totally locked down. They had on-premise solutions. Servers were frozen over. They could not access systems. So there's a couple of events that sparked that. And so what we're seeing is, private equity firms getting into these companies, taking systems that are either on-premise or maybe in a private data center, sometimes even in AWS or Google, and we're seeing them move those solutions to Azure. And it's really just taking a look at the cloud footprint and saying, do we have the right strategy? Do we have the right footprint for growth? And is our spending optimized in the cloud? We're doing a couple of those engagements right now where there's just astronomical spending and a lot of servers stood up that don't need to be, but no one's reviewed it. And so the spend's just out of control. So optimization is a big bucket. The second area we're seeing is around security. And we're seeing a big push in this from a data governance perspective and a data loss perspective. And it's twofold. I can give you an example right now where we are doing an implementation of Microsoft Purview to help them with data governance and data classification and data loss prevention. Not only at the portcos, we're doing it in all 12 of their portfolio companies, but we're doing it at the private equity firm level itself because they want to be able to make sure they're abiding by any SEC regulations they have with investors. And so what we're doing there is actually implementing Purview so that it can go out and find information within these companies or at the private equity firm level that they might not know they have out there. For instance, someone may have saved a driver's license on their desktop or a social security card and forgot about it. And Purview's going to go out. It's going to find that information, whether it's a Microsoft solution or a data warehouse or Salesforce. It doesn't matter. It's going to go out. It's going to find that information. It's going to put it aside and quarantine it and say, hey, we found this PII out there, this type of information out there. What should we do with it? It should not be out there. The second thing it does is it locks down data. So, everyone talks about external bad actors and them taking data out of the systems. So it's certainly going to lock that down and notify if anyone's doing that. But internal bad actors as well. If you fire a sales rep and they're trying to download contacts from CRM, you can set up Purview to lock down that data so they can't do it and notify someone that, hey, they're trying to take this information. Or you can set up rules to say, yes, you know what, they can take this information, they have permission to do it. So we're seeing a lot of emphasis around security and protecting data. I say it all the time. It only takes, one company in a fund to go down to really ruin the returns for that whole fund. And so I think making sure that these companies are secure and knowing what data they have out there has been really important for private equity firms.
Excellent. So Chuck, why is technology an important part of the due diligence process?
But it's interesting. I'm excited about hearing what Jake's going to say about this too. I think data and cloud become a big part of this, and for a couple of ways. And we're seeing this where Chuck and Jake Incorporated have a company for a long time, and we grow it to a certain point, and we've grown it based on our intuition and what we think our customers want and things like that. But then we're looking for a private equity investment. We've got to figure out how to harmonize our data with what the private equity sees as good and what they understand as good. And most portcos are not publicly traded, so they're less regulated. So that harmonization in using cloud and security and data becomes a big part of the due diligence process. And you'll find these outliers out there. I was listening to a podcast the other day where they said there was a SaaS company that was for their books recognizing pre-discount revenue. So if I sold Jake something for $100 a seat, but Jake asked for a discount and I booked it for $80 a seat, they're reporting the pre-discount revenue. When a private equity comes in, they're going to say that doesn't sound like a great idea. They're going to harmonize it with what they understand and what companies that are sort of in your portco would not portco cohort would do. We're also seeing, in addition to harmonizing the data, the private equity firm can use it to look at trends, risks, and growth opportunities. And then after the acquisition, that change can be a little bit, or it can be a lot for the portco. And part of the role in due diligence is to get everybody ready for whatever change is to come. So there's a whole change management element after this that seems to be a part of it. But I'm definitely curious to see what Jake says.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. I agree with you 100% on the value creation side. We're looking at it more from a risk perspective, right? And what do you have out there that you don't know about? And quite frankly, when it comes to technology and security due diligence, we wish that private equity firms would put more emphasis on this. Unfortunately, even today, it's a little more pronounced out there, but a lot of times it's just a checklist item, and they're saying, we checked the box, we did the due diligence, but they didn't really dive into it, and there's a lot of open gaps. And so when we go into work on due diligence, we're either going in, at the private equity firm level directly, or a lot of times it's through one of our third parties that will actually do full end-to-end due diligence, and they're taking a look at everything. But they'll bring in Trofeo to say, hey, take a look at the infrastructure, take a look at the security. Not only give us an idea of the risks that are here, but let us know, hey, what's the other spend on the side of this to correct what's wrong. And, unfortunately, many times we don't get brought in until after the fact. And there's a lot of 6-7 figure spends that were not accounted for in the deal process. And nobody likes that surprise, I can tell you that. And so we wish there was more emphasis on due diligence. And that's really, what we're looking to do is go in and saying, hey, where are the risks? What's the cloud strategy? What do we need to move to the cloud? What security tools do we need to implement to really lock this down? Hackers are coming downstream. They are not targeting the super large companies anymore. They're coming down into the mid-market. And it's an easy target for them when companies are not implementing and maturing their security standards and their cloud footprint. And so that's really what we're looking for in a due diligence process.
So this kind of goes with it in a little way, is why is it important for technology partners to understand the thesis for the deal? kind of rolls from the last one to.
It definitely does. We always find the thesis being super important. More importantly, working with a solution provider that actually understands the M&A space and private equity is critical. A lot of these guys say they understand the space and they work in private equity, but they really don't. And so, one of our first questions is, tell us what the deal thesis is, right? I mean, is it a 3 to 5 year hold? Is it a longer term hold? Are you guys going to expand organically? Is there a lot of acquisitions? This is a platform company. Are you going to be expanding international, or are you going to be, maybe putting warehouses on the West Coast? Tell us how you're going to grow and what the thesis is for the business. And then we'll put together a cloud security technology solution that matches that thesis and supports it and allows you to grow. A lot of these firms come in, they don't even ask that question, so they don't know, and they give you everything in the kitchen sink. And now you have a really big expense that's not needed. You have way overkill on the technology footprint, and it doesn't allow you to get quick wins because these implementations take a long time. If you're in a 3 to 5 year hold and they come in and do a 2 year, 3 year implementation, you're on the back end of that. You aren't realizing the value. And so one of the biggest things we say is, how can we tackle some quick wins quickly to get ROI back into the business? And if you ask the thesis right from the beginning, that's what allows you to do that. So, Chuck, I don't know if you're seeing similar on your side.
100%. So we think that aligning with the deal thesis is absolutely critical for CRM and that kind of AI that's focused on that revenue growth. And it's interesting because even if the deal is a little more of a financial one, like Jake said, it's 3 to 5 years, and then we're going to look at the next thing, or if it's a little longer, lean into growth, there's still some things that often get missed under that deals thesis in terms of leaning into like the business model of the company and making sure the go-to-market motions are aligned with the tech, kind of talking about the tech approach. So CRMs are almost always overfeatured. What are the 8 things I need to sell something? But in terms of go-to-market, is it a product-led growth? Is it a one-step sales process where somebody on the front desk is helping the web sales? Is it 2-step where you SDR, BDR? Is it a field sales type solution? Is it a enterprise sales? Those things will inform the complexity. And sometimes those are questions even our PE partners won't ask that we should lean into. So not just the industry, but the deal thesis and aligning the go-to-market strategy with the tech stack tends to be super important.
So Chuck, technology can be a sticking point between the portco and the private equity firms. How does a good technology partner navigate this?
Well, Jake, you started us down this path, and I'm happy to to continue. Sometimes you're looking, if you're a portco and you're looking to a PE partner to come and help you, sometimes some things are just thought of to taken it for granted. So a tech partner might have a stack that they tend to lead with, or excuse me, a private equity. Like, okay, I got every client, I use this same, back office solution, the same front office solution, and everybody uses that same thing, which might be easier for the private equity or the operating partner to look at, Trofeo and congruentX and ABC company, but it might not be the best thing to do to align with our go-to-market strategies and help us scale. So I think it's important for a tech partner to lean into helping the operating partner from the private equity firm and that deal team align what the deal thesis with what the company is trying to do, so that the tech is fuel and it's not creating more friction for folks. Make sense?
Yeah, that's a good point, Chuck. We see this all the time, right? And it really starts at the beginning, but when you have the private equity firm coming in, and you have the portco that's been existing, we see two things. One, the portco doesn't want to change technology at all, and they want to keep what they have in place, or they want this massive spend and they want everything exactly the way they want it, the way they think it needs to work. And you have the private equity firm that is writing the checks now and has a budget for what they want to invest into this company. And when you bring in a solutions provider who doesn't understand the space, what ends up happening is they usually talk to one or the other, and they never get everybody at the table to talk to together. And that's where the miss happens. And so we make sure we get all the right players together at the table, so that we can get a full view and everybody knows what's going on, every step of the way. And when you do that, you can get a technology solution in place that the portco is happy with, and the private equity firm knows what's going on every step of the way. And so that's how we've navigated that. And we see it in just about every deal. I don't know if there's a deal that doesn't exist in. So it's important to bring everybody to the table and get everybody on the same page, and that eliminates that. But if you work with a solution provider, who doesn't understand the space, what's going to happen is they're going to work with the portco. You're going to get to the end of the process, go back for budget approval. You have $1 million budget, and the private equity firm is going to say, "What the heck? We're not spending, $1 million on this. What are you talking about?" and it happens all the time. So get everybody at the table is my advice there.
That makes sense. And Jake, there's almost like two groups of people that need to be brought to the table. Is the PE and the portco, potential portco. And this, I'm curious what you think about this. Is like we find that there's a second group, like sometimes the sales and marketing team and the IT team and the leadership team and the users are not as close before this acquisition discussion happened. So they haven't talked about these things either. So there tends to sometimes be this whole new process, discovery and optimization, that you have to think through inside the portco.
I agree 100%. I've said this for a while. Unfortunately, technology sometimes gets shoved in the corner, and all this is a technology project. It's going to go over here with the IT team. We make sure that doesn't happen, right? And we're seeing it get more strategic, but bringing all the C-levels to the table, from the CFO, the CEO, CIO, and getting everyone on the same page from a business perspective. If you can't get the buy-in from the whole business and you're doing silo IT projects, it's never going to work. Because what we see happen is, this person has their idea of what the data should be and how to get the reports, and they're going to go off and do it. And this person has their idea. Now you have, what should be the same report and same data buckets, and you have two totally different outcomes because you have people doing it different ways in the company. And we see that in all size companies, from 20 million up to over $1 billion. And so I think your point's super valid, Chuck. Get everybody on the same page and optimize the business as a whole.
Yeah. So maximizing ROI through technology. Jake, what advice can you give PE firms to maximize their value? And what do you think the sweet spot is for technology that would help them achieve that maximum ROI?
Yeah, I think for maximizing ROI, it's a lot of the points we've talked about already. I think, paying more attention to due diligence and really putting emphasis on it and investing in it is important. If you do the right due diligence, you're going to understand where your gaps are, where your risks are, and what your costs are, to fix those on the other side of the deal. And when that is done right, what we're seeing is those costs are actually getting put into the valuation and getting paid for as part of the deal process. So it's not surprising anyone on the other side. That would be my first bit of advice. I would say the second bit of advice is pick a solutions provider who truly works in private equity and understands the space. Someone who can get boots on the ground quick, someone who can, navigate the relationship by all parties involved, and someone who, asks the question, what is the thesis, so that you actually get a technology solution that can support that growth, at a cost that was planned for, and can deliver quick wins in ROI. That would be my second piece of advice. I would say don't get complacent with the systems and solutions that are there. I see this time after time. Oh, we aren't going to invest in technology. They've grown to this level, and what they have, they can continue to grow on that, until an incident happens, or a breach happens, whatever it may be. And then it's a lot more to fix it on the other side of that when remediation has to be done. And so don't be complacent. You're just asking for an invitation for a disaster if you're complacent. And I'd say the last thing is take advantage of the Microsoft stack. A lot of the work we're seeing now in private equity is optimization. And it's unfortunate. A company will have all this Microsoft licensing, and there's so much that it does, but no one really takes the time to dive into it or partner with someone like a Trofeo or Congruent to go through the licensing to see what do we have available at our fingertips. And what we see is they go out and they buy 2 or 3 other solutions that do exactly what they already have in one license. So now they have all this additional spend. And so I'd say really take a look at the Microsoft stack, the licensing you have, take advantage of it. That's when it really gets powerful, is when all of these pieces start to work together. The data, just has the ultimate synergy when it's in one place being pulled by different Microsoft solutions. And so I think the power is at your fingertips. Bringing a partner that can help you really realize what you have and expand the value there.
Yeah. And Chuck, I believe you have an amazing example of how congruentX helped one of our clients maximize their ROI.
If I think of the one that you said, if I don't say that one, you straighten me out. But yeah, it's interesting. And like Jake said, what we're seeing is a lot of companies have, especially as in the earlier days of SaaS, and really through a couple of years ago, is people bought a lot of widgets that did a certain thing for them in the SaaS thing. So we do a lot of migrations from like Salesforce into the Microsoft stack and things like that. And you'll find there was like Salesforce or HubSpot or something, but then they have a widget for chasing after customers for their SDRs, and then 2 widgets for marketing and 3 widgets for customer experience. And it becomes, and you find out that 1, people are paying 5 times more per seat than they should pay, but 2, they can't get their arms around the data. And I think you've seen so many of these where sometimes any event like this is an opportunity to take another look at your business. And most companies we talk to, and I believe this is beyond our purview too, beyond our scale, is they don't really think of their revenue engine the same way they do as their delivery engine. So if you have like a factory, like that magic marker is going to come through that factory at 1022.5 every day, and there's going to be a 5,000 come through. The machine that is the slowest in the factory, that you have to put a little extra grease on, all those things. On the revenue side of the house, that poor CRO that I talked about earlier is kind of like, and like Bugs Bunny, it's all intuition. So for your, and it's different for every company, but like up to about 10 million, you just sell everything you can. Post 10 million, you do need to start building a predictable revenue engine. And the cool thing about what Jake said is if you can get this stuff more on one platform, especially Microsoft, you could start to think about what things like AI can do. And we have an example in our firm where we had have a client that wanted to grow a part of their business from X millions and millions, hundreds of millions, to X times 1.2 or something on hundreds of millions. And they felt like they had the people to do it, but they didn't think they had the tech to do it. And what we figured out is the tech could help the people. And we used, we love Winning by Design's bow tie model, and we did some analysis on their bow tie, and we found out that we can do 2 things and drive like $17 million of revenue in a year. One thing was to listen to the conversations of the people who are coming into the use conversation intelligence, who are coming into the call center, improve the quality of that conversation. So I'm a new person. I'm not going to say things as smoothly as Tasha, who's an experienced person. So let's use conversation intelligence to, like I was mentioning, look for those 2 red eyes in the jungle, the outliers, the people that need some coaching. The other thing is to make upsell cross-sell suggestions in that same sales scenario. And whatever it turns out that their implementation cost is about 1/17 the cost of what they'll get back by not just turning on the tech, but looking at where the opportunities are, where those constraints are in their process, lean into those. And all of a sudden, if you're going to spend $1, you get back $17 on it. Put some more zeros on that and it gets super compelling, right? So that's one of the things that we want to do is first get data right, then help the private equity partner push out their playbooks, and then take those playbooks to the next level in the customer's business to kind of put grease on that one machine that's not fast enough in the factory to speed things up. Okay.
So you kind of mentioned AI
Mm-hmm.
in that example.
I can't
So what do
stop
you think
mentioning
the
it.
role of AI plays in the process? I mean, you kind of touched on it a little bit, but
Mm-hmm. Well, for a little while, and even with some clients we work with, is we want to talk about, you can get, it's almost like Fight Club. You're not supposed to talk about Fight Club. Maybe let's talk about what AI does and not focus as much on the AI. But what we're seeing, and I think Microsoft sees this similarly, is right now it's an assistant. It helps you do things that you're doing. I think we're going to see it shift a little bit and become more proactive at our direction and help us and create we're going to start seeing experiences at work get more like the experiences we have at home. And, like at home, if I take the dog out for a walk, my watch goes, "Hey, looks like you're going for a walk. Do you want to track it?" I don't fill out a form. But at work, if I do something, anything I do, I got to fill out a stupid form. So what we're going to see is generative AI is going to start creating contextual UI, contextual experiences for people that help people get really good at the thing and use their be the best people they can be in their work. And here's a quick example. We have a client who they have people 250 salespeople, and we figured out that their numbers, not mine, they're taking 10% to prep for every call. Did you know 82% of customers think sellers aren't ready for calls? And they're spending 10% of their calls to get time to get ready, 20% of their time doing research on products, and 10% on follow-up. So if you can optimize those three things, one, you're buying back a day a week of time for that salesperson. Two, are we going to help that, not just help that salesperson be more efficient, but to be more effective? And I believe we will. And that's the exciting part of what AI is going to bring. It's going to help us be better Tasha, Jakes, and Chucks, not just be an assistant.
what you through Trofeo, what are you seeing?
Yeah, no, those are all great points, Chuck. I completely agree with what you said. I'll tell you what we're seeing out there, and it aligns. We're really one, it's crucial for growth, right? Companies can't ignore it. They have to start thinking about what is their AI strategy going to be. They have to be careful not to dive all in on AI, but and do it cautiously. But really, the areas we're seeing it is productivity is the first one. So we're doing a lot of M365 with Copilot, and that's really just gaining efficiencies within the organization. I would say the second area we're seeing it is functional AI, where it's actually replacing business functions and being able to do some of those throughout the organization. I would say the third area is proprietary AI, where these are actually business functions that are creating a competitive advantage and a secret sauce for the organization, and they're wrapping AI around it. And I would say the fourth area is really increased analytics. But when we're going into a company and they're saying, "Hey, we want to do AI, we have this AI strategy, we want to tackle it," the part, and I would say almost 9 out of 10 companies, I would probably say 10 out of 10, honestly, is they don't realize there's an underlying footprint that needs to be laid for AI. And so what we're really doing is a lot of AI readiness and AI enablement so that they can execute, on these 4 pillars that we're seeing. And really what that AI enablement entails is, hey, look, you got to have the right hosting power and infrastructure to be able to leverage AI. Your data has to be clean, and you have to have the right security metrics in place. Going back to some of my earlier examples, if you have HIPAA and PII information out there, now you put an AI tool on top, and it's just pulling data blindly, and you don't know what data you have out there. It is publishing that data out there, and so now you have a big mess on your hands. And so there is this readiness and enablement layer of AI that companies are not thinking about that needs to be put in place before they can actually start leveraging the tools. And so that's really what we're seeing out there. I'm going to stop there because I know there's going to be a follow-up webinar coming in a couple months that we're doing around AI readiness and AI in businesses. And so make sure you stay tuned for more details on that.
Yes. Thank you, Chuck and Jake, for your amazing insights. Does anybody have any questions before we wrap up? Otherwise, we'll get this recording to you. And we, like Jake said, we will be having a follow-up session for AI readiness and the importance of role of AI. So we look forward to seeing everyone there. If you do have any questions after this, feel free to email Chuck, Jake, or myself. But otherwise, thank you all for your attendance.
Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
everybody.
Thank you all.
Thank you.